What's going on, guys? Kaiger here, and in today's video I see a lot of people asking about what equipment they want, what sets to use, especially with new dungeons coming out. We're going to talk about which sets to use and how you should be upgrading them. Let's get into it. Alright guys, this is my equipment right here. As you see, everything is plus 12, and that is because when you go to enhance, you'll see succession rate 7% and durability reduction rate 90%. This is why a lot of people are not going past plus 12. Every plus 3 will give you an additional roll right here. You'll see 2, 3, 1, 2. That is not that it has 2 rolls. Everything starts at 1 and gets plus 1 per roll. So you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4 pluses, which has us at plus 12. Another huge thing is for every plus 1, your base stat will go up, the attack 2363, and that is very, very important because these percentages right here, attack plus 17.5, scale based off of your base number, which would be that up there. Not the weapon itself, but the weapon gets added to everything else and then gets multiplied by that, giving you a bigger number. So having those flat stats is going to be very, very important. As you'll see right under that is the sunstones, which can be put on your weapons and your sub-weapon, and the moonstones can be put on all of your accessories, effectively the same thing. For all of these, I suggest crit damage, where even if you are a tanky player like Cleef, a lot of the higher players are seeing success, still going towards that crit rate, crit damage build with some accuracy. Now, probably the biggest question I see is, how do I know if I want to keep this equipment or not? All of the weapons' main stat is going to be attack. All of the sub-weapon main stat is going to be HP. And then as far as accessories, earrings will all be defense. And then the other 3, if we take a look, necklace, you're going to want either crit rate or crit damage, usually crit damage unless you really, really need that crit rate. Then bracelet, generally going to be attack percent. If you really want to be a super tanky Cleef, HP can be fine, but a lot of success is being seen by going straight attack. Then we have the ring, which, if we take a look, HP, defense, resistance, or accuracy, so all defensive stats. I'm seeing a lot of people take accuracy, but they're not seeing any success with it. The ones that actually have success are the HP rings. You can make the argument that defense is good for Cleef because he deals damage based on defense with a lot of his skills and weapons, while also making him tankier. That is true, but when you're in a PvP or even PvE situation, a defense break or defense down on you will reduce your damage as well as reduce your survivability. HP is always going to be valuable. Now the question is, which set should I build? And for weapons, this is a very, very easy one, and that is going to be the seal weapon. That gives increased monster attack. The reason why this is if we take a look at any of the other weapons, this is the newest one for global, increases base attack of the same attribute plus 2. All of these other ones increase the level of something, but you'll see right here, cannot exceed max level, which is 10. Over time, you will get enough books that it does nothing. The exception is all the light weapons and all the dark weapons have a second line of text, as you see right here. A good example would be, if we come here, you'll see light equipment reduce damage taken in arena and battlefield. Dark weapon increase damage. So light take less damage, dark deal more damage. The only exception is the Twisted Marsh light weapon, because as you'll see, it says light/dark increases damage. So if you're strictly focused on damage and trying to save on wing pieces for upgrades, the light twisted marsh weapon, even though you're losing that basic skill level bonus, you are gaining 5% damage in PvP. If you don't care about PvP, then go for that seal weapon. But for everything else, having seal weapon is very, very important. Then we go into sub-weapon, and it's pretty much agreed upon that, believe it or not, the first raid, Foggy Prison, has the best sub-weapon. Decreases summoner damage taken from all sources by 4.5%. Not really much. The only other one you could argue about is the last greed one that increases monster damage dealt, but the summoner is generally the most important unit in any PvP context. So sure, your monsters will live a lot longer, but I've seen plenty of summoners 1v3 the monsters after the summoner's dead, because mana is just so important, and your summoner is generally stronger than any single monster. As far as accessories, we have a similar conversation. So on global, you don't have the option, but Tree of Heroes right here will be best in slot for most people. Taking 11% less damage as your summoner in PvP is the flat out best you can have for PvP, but as it says, PvP, so it's only useful in PvP. Across the board, if you just want to be better, Boiling Waterfall increases your summoner attack. And if you roll attack percentage on any of your weapons, sub-weapons, or accessories, then it gets multiplied because of that plus effect. Now, until you get that in, if you want to be a little bit tankier, you do have the option of Frost right here that gives 3,400 HP. I've rolled a lot of HP percentage on my stuff, and it actually doesn't end up being very much because Orbi has a low base HP, but if you add this 3,000, it gets exponential with all the percentages, making you survive a lot longer. And I think that's a decent go-between if you want to play a defensive strategy as a Kina or as a Cleef until it comes out Twilight Heroes in Global. Now we have a couple more important things I need to touch on. Now that we know what equipment we want, what primary stats we want, and what we're trying to build. So if we take a look, each of your weapons and your sub-weapons have these slots right here: red, blue, green. Now these get added to your monsters generally. You'll see I have attack HP, attack speed. That is not exactly what I'm going to suggest to you. For red, the best in slot is going to be monster crit rate, and that is because that will go across all your monsters. And as you see down here, all stats on all your weapons matter, and it'll be 25% of all of them go to your whatever you have. So right, if I'm not on fire, that 6.4% attack, I will get 25% of that regardless, even if I'm not using it, including that crit rate, defense, HP, and attack to myself. I will still get 25% of that regardless if I'm not using fire. Now, the reason why I say crit rate instead of attack is because crit rate is something that's going to be needed across the board to do your thing, unless you're specifically not trying to do crit rate, which, I mean, more power to you. But red is the offensive slot, and I suggest a crit rate. Attack is okay. It'll be like the second choice, but I prefer crit rate because I don't have to worry about getting so much of that on my runes. Now, as far as blue, generally, you're going to want a monster HP percent, But if you use a lot of monsters that do defense damage or scaling based off of defense, then defense percent will be fine. Green is kind of that weird situation because these are all the secondary effects. You could do accuracy. You could do attack speed right here if you're trying to hit certain breakpoints, which I have the list of the attack speed breakpoints on my Discord down below. But like in this situation, I have the attack speed gem, so I can have one of my monsters hit a specific breakpoint so he can attack 1.5 times per second. And that's really what I need so he can be triggering the passive on his basic attack. Now, this is the biggest question. How do you decide if you want to bring a weapon, sub-weapon, or accessory up? If a 6-star 2 awakened drops and you don't know if you want to bring it up to 6-star 3 awakened. So how you do that is generally you want to bring the equipment to either +6 or +9 depending on your gold income. Generally, I like to bring something to +9 and see how it goes, and that's because the requirement to go up to +9 is low in comparison to what it is to bring to +12, obviously. And the difference between 6 and 9 is not that huge. It exists, but to make sure you're getting a correct item is just fine. And what I want to look for is generally something that has at least a 3, so 2 rolls into a stat. It'll be best if there were 2 3s, so a 3, a 3, a 1, and a 1. That's best in slot in my opinion, or 4, 2, 1, 1 if possible. But 3, 3, 1, 1 is definitely doable. Something like this right here, 3, 3, 1, 2, that's at +12. So if that D was a 1, totally fine at +9. And that's how I decide if I want to bring it up. Right now on both global and NA, when you bring this up, the all of them will stay 2, 3, 1, 2, but the grade will re-roll. So that C could be a D, but that D could be an S. In the future, which is currently live on Korea, all of that is still true, but it can't go lower. It could only go up. And that is slated to be coming in the future for both global and NA. So if it's a low stat, but it has good rolls, as in the 3-3-1-1, as I explained, then, so if like all of these were D and C, then I would bring that up now, trying to make them roll better. But if they are all S's and A's with good rolls, I would wait until that happens so that I could bring it up. And then if it, obviously rolls, it could only go up, and an S can't get any higher because it's an S. Now, probably the biggest question is, what stats am I looking for on these things? And generally, something like this is super best in slot. So I am Orbia, damage dealer, but as I said previously, all the summoners should be dealt with damage in mind as well as tankiness. You really want to hit that sweet spot, maybe a little bit tankier for Cleef, maybe a little bit for Kina, but something like this is perfect for all summoners. If you have this exact piece right here, I don't care what summoner you are, this piece right here is golden, besides maybe having higher tiers like A or S. So why that is you want your biggest roll to be crit damage. You really want to be dishing out that damage. And as far as crit rate, for Orbia, you want 90%, because Orbia is all about hitting her elemental advantage. All summoners can do this, but Orbia really wants it because of how her passive works. and that is plus 10% crit rate, as well as her light weapon, skill 1, gives her an additional 15%, so you can only go for 75% crit rate on Orbia and be totally fine. I think with all summoners, you could get away with 80% as a sweet spot, because if you are attacking with elemental advantage, you're at 90%. Amazing, right? But even if you're at elemental disadvantage, that's only 70%, which you're still hitting most of the time, right? So I think as long as you're in that 80% range, you're totally fine on all summoners. Crit damage, get as high as you can. The cap is 400%. And then HP is going to come into play, that percentage, but also that plus flat amount, because of how scaling works, as I explained earlier. Also good stats to look for are attack and attack percentage. On Cleef, having some defense and defense percentage, not bad. That's effectively a secondary attack roll. And then a little bit of accuracy on all 3 summoners. You really want to be in that 60% or higher accuracy rate. Orbia could go lower because her Dark skill 1 gives her accuracy buff. But on all 3 summoners, they're applying debuffs. So you really want to be in that 60-65% range. Because how Elemental Advantage just got reworked is plus or minus 10% on accuracy as well, giving you a huge bonus in that field. So this is probably going to be everyone's favorite part of the video, because this is how you really make use of your preservation stones, your reviving catalysts, and your refined stones. So if you have a good piece of gear, like this is SSDD, and so all I have to do is bring those Ds up. How do I do that? So if I lock the S's, you'll see some numbers changed here, and you'll see preservation stones, the number required, which is on the right, goes up. It's currently at 80. So it will require 80 preservation stones to keep these 2 locked ones in place. And it says I have the option to use 2 refining catalysts to refine those 2 up there. So they will always roll into different stats, but if I use the refining catalysts, they will also go up 1 tier from D to C. So what I would do here is use 2 refining catalysts each time to go up to C, to B, to A, to S, and then I would be rolling using preservation stones as needed to hold things in place to get proper stats. But right now, on this piece of equipment right here, the best thing you should do is don't hold anything and just roll it. Now you'll see, that's obviously better than what I had, but I would keep rolling until the 4 or the 2 roll something that I really want, and it's not going to require any preservation stones or any refining catalysts. It's only going to require a very small amount of refining stones and sky stones. But so this is something very, very important. Obviously, S is better than D, but D2 and D4 are better than S1. I know that's kind of rough to understand, and it's effectively a range. So let's say it's 1 to 10. D is going to be a 2 or a 3, whereas S will be that 10. It's a smaller clump than 1 to 10. It's really, let's think 1 to 5, where D is a 1, S is a 5. But when it multiplies, it gets a lot more than 2 and 10. It's kind of a complicated thing, but I really hope that makes it across well. But obviously a C4 will be better than a D4, but a D4 is better than an S1. Now, how do you get these resources? Preservation stones, refining catalysts, and refined stones. Refined stones you are only going to get and the Galagos ruins. Primarily right here for beating up normal battle areas, elite battle areas, and boss battle areas. And you can get more from doing the magic order. As you'll see above my head, I can get 60% additional by giving myself debuffs. As far as refining catalysts, it's been added in several stores, including the Galagos Ruin shop. So you can have a monthly income of, I think you get about 3 a month from the different shops right now. Apologies if that's not entirely correct. I know it's at least 2, but I think they added a third one recently. But you're getting 2 or 3 a month, and that's going to allow you to bring your C's and B's up to S over time. If you're deciding between 2 pieces of equipment, you bring them up to +9, see how the rolls land, see how the grades land, and decide from there. I apologize, it's a little bit of a longer video, but this is a very complicated area that I really thought people need to know. Leave a like if you like this video, and let me know in the comment section down below if you would like to see more things like this. Till next time, guys.